So we're going to talk about this journey moving from desire to acceptance, which brings me to secret number one, which is to heal your relationship with yourself. Now, what does that even mean? To heal your relationship with yourself? Well, what I want to say first is this. If you really knew who you were, you would be a puddle on the floor, like just crying tears of gratitude for your very existence. It's almost like there's an imposter in our minds. There's a certain version of ourselves or a certain way in which we see ourselves that is not who we truly are. And most of us end up resenting ourselves, resisting ourselves, sometimes hating ourselves, judging ourselves, criticizing ourselves. This continual negative view of ourselves is what constantly reinforces the identity that we don't want to perpetuate. So if you look at children, and we'll start there, because if you look at children love very naturally. Like love just comes so natural to children. And when I say love, I don't just mean love the way we might think of love, but it's all the emotions of our being, right? It's this, children have this incredible full expression of life. But then something happens to us as children that changes all of that. And the first thing that happens is we receive conditional love and validation rather than unconditional love and validation. So from the time you were a small child, you have been conditioned, you have been trained to be a certain way by your parents, by your teachers, by your older siblings if you had them, by the other kids at school, by anyone that you were really exposed to. And from the time you were a very little kid, what people have done is rewarded you for being who they wanted you to be and punished you for not being that. The next thing that happens is we experience trauma. And trauma can happen in varying degrees. So some of you have maybe experienced very, very severe trauma. The physical, the sexual abuse, the things like that. Some of you have maybe experienced very, very severe trauma. But whether you experienced severe trauma or whether you experienced a kind of cultural, generalized trauma that we all experience, it's very real. And what the trauma is the trauma is anything that gives you the impression that it's not safe to be yourself and it's not safe to love. And so when we experience these traumas, what starts to happen to us is we start to close down parts of ourself. And it can happen in so many different ways, but the truth is, we live in a highly toxic world. And trauma is the result of growing up in this world. And it really doesn't matter what country you grew up in, really doesn't matter what part of the world you grew up in, it really doesn't matter who the people were around you. You were exposed to this and you did experience this. The third thing we go through is what I call disappointments, heartbreaks, and rejections. And what I mean by that is these are the later experiences in life that solidify our earlier impressions. So when we're young, we experience conditional love, we experience trauma. And then as we grow, we experience disappointments, heartbreaks, and rejections. And then as you go through life and as you grow up and as you get dumped by your boyfriend or girlfriend, or as you get humiliated or mocked at school, or as these other things might happen, those earlier impressions that you received as a child become solidified. They become like concrete. And you start to truly believe these things about yourself. And so if you take all of this and you throw it into a pot, what's going to come out of it? Well, the first thing is going to be a feeling, an emotion. It's going to be something like it's not safe to love and it's not safe to be myself. But then as you go through life, that starts to evolve, that starts to develop. And what starts to happen is it's no longer just a feeling. It becomes a belief, right? It starts to concretize into a certain belief, a way that you view yourself. And then as we go on further into our lives and we have more experiences and we start to pile the disappointments and the heartbreaks and the rejections on, it becomes even more solidified. And I say it becomes an identity, an I am statement, right? A statement of who I am, that I am not worthy of love. It starts to become a part of how I see myself, how I understand myself, and who I believe I am. Now, in this paradigm of it's not safe to love, and it's not safe to be myself, what happens is our heart shuts down. And then what happens when our heart closes is the emergence of what I call the ego. And the ego says, I'll figure out who and how I need to be, right? So it's not safe to love and it's not safe to be myself, but I'm gonna figure out who I need to be. I'm gonna figure out how I need to be. I'm gonna come up with the perfect strategy. I'm gonna get everyone to love me. I'm gonna be awesome. I'm gonna be great. I'm gonna play the game. I'm gonna know exactly what to do. And you might have your own version of this. And some of us played the game by becoming very small. Some of us played the game by being very out in the open, and I'm gonna be right in your face, and I'm gonna be loud, and I'm gonna be the center of attention, and I'm gonna, command the room when I walk into it. And some of us played the game like that. And there's a version of that that falls everywhere in between. We all have our own act. We all have our own persona that we put on for the world that makes us feel safe. And so when we live life through that persona, we create a life that we're disappointed in. We create a life that we're not happy in. And so this is how we end up feeling. And I'm not gonna read every single item on this list, but I just want you to take a look at this. This is all you can expect to experience from your life. You can't expect to experience anything else. So this is what I'll call the state of emptiness, right? It produces that craving. It produces that disappointment. The state of emptiness equals the state of desire, and the state of desire equals craving and disappointment. As long as you are living in the state of emptiness, you will maintain the vibration of desire, and you will feel a never-ending craving for something to fix your life, and you will always be disappointed by it. And so now I'm going to share with you exactly what healing your relationship with yourself really is. In the ego's view, this little devil horns here, this is my rendition of the ego. The ego is not the devil, it's just for fun. Ego has no awareness of your spiritual self. It has no awareness of your real mind. It has a little bit of awareness of your emotional. It sees the body and the physical reality as the ultimate reality. And so what the ego is constantly trying to do is manipulate things on the outside of you to fix an internal dissatisfaction, because it doesn't believe there's anything more. The ego only relates with the body and the physical reality. As human beings, we are actually four-dimensional beings. Now I know that might sound weird. What the hell, what are you talking about, four-dimensional beings? Well, there are actually four essential aspects to our makeup as human beings. The first one is spirit. Spirit you can think of as light, energy, or potential. This is who we are. This is what we're made of. Then there is the higher mind. Now, if you can imagine, spirit is the essence of the universe. It is the energy of the universe. It is the potential. It's what everything comes out of. The higher mind is you as an individual. Then you have the body, which is the you that you know yourself to be. It's the you that was born into this life, and it's the you that will die. So this is the temporary you. And then what we have are the emotions, an information exchange between the body and the higher mind. The emotions are this kind of feedback system between your higher mind and your body. And when you are living your life in accordance with your higher mind, you are filled with positive emotion. You are filled with love. You are filled with joy. You are filled with energy. You are filled with the spirit. And what comes out of our physical experience is the ego mind. This is not going to move on with you after you die. This is something that was born through your body. And so the ego mind is based in fear and survival. It's constantly anticipating the danger and trying to preemptively avoid it. The emotions are seen as inconveniences, and they're repressed and avoided to pursue the ego's survival goal. So when you live through the ego, you cannot be true to yourself, because the ego is always repressing aspects of yourself. By closing off our channel of communication to the higher mind, which is our emotional body, by repressing our emotion, we lose connection to our higher mind. We lose connection to our truth, and the ego dominates and becomes our identity. So true healing is about reframing your relationship with your ego. So your ego takes a supporting role, and your life is instead led by your higher mind and your intuition. So this leads me to secret number 2, which is to live your passion and authentic self-expression. The secret here is really to follow your passion, excitement, and inspiration. But the truth is, to create authentic love, you need to express as your authentic self. So to create the life and the love that you really want to have, you need to be creating that life as an expression of your truth. The second piece is to find the things you love and let those things connect you to the people who are right for you. So it's really about finding the things you love and letting these things connect you to the people, places, and everything that's right for you. Secret here is to follow your passion, follow your excitement, follow your inspiration, follow your intuition. When you're out at your yoga class and your intuition says, talk to that person, you need to listen to that. The secret is to let go of control. Don't think you know how it's supposed to look. Follow the intuitive spark, even when it doesn't make rational sense. Which leads me to secret number 3. Trust your context. No insistence about outcomes. Now, this is probably going to be the most important secret that we cover here. Context creates content. You've got to trust your context. This is going to allow you to move from the state of emptiness that we were talking about earlier to a state of power, a state of creative power. Now, I spoke a little bit about this earlier, but I just want to revisit this for a moment, because when you live in the vibration of desire, it is always reinforced by fear. And so if you'll look at the chart, vibration or desire is a slightly higher vibration than fear. Desire gives you just a little more energy than fear does. And so what happens is you'll get into a desire that'll feel really good because you're rising above the vibration of fear. And you'll say, I want this. And when I get this, it's going to make me happy. And so you'll start to get excited about the desire. But then the moment you're actually in a position where you could have that desire manifest, fear starts to take over. I see this happen constantly when, someone will go out, they'll go on a date, they'll make a connection with the person, they'll get really excited about it, they'll feel like their desire is going to happen for them. Things are going really great. And then something will happen. Maybe he just doesn't respond right away sometime, and it causes fear to come up. Everything about this situation looks different. The fear is going to feed you another desire. And it's going to say, well, if you could just get them to text back, or if you could just get them to ask you out, or if you could just get another date, or maybe if you sleep together or whatever, it'll give you all these solutions to make the fear go away. And so you'll start desiring more things to overcompensate for the fear. But the more you let these desires lead you, the bigger the fear becomes again, and you fall back down. And this becomes a self-perpetuating cycle. I put that little anvil there because it becomes like a weight that is constantly holding you down. Acceptance is the gateway to everything you want in life. It's the willingness to accept myself, my circumstances, every aspect of life, to accept it as it is with no desire to change it, but to really be present to what is and integrating the lessons that are presenting themselves in this moment. Thank you so much for being here today. Wishing you so much love. If you need anything or have any questions about the program or anything like that, feel free to reach out to me, and I'm happy to support in any way I can. Take care, everybody. Lots of love.